Are you thinking about joining the Coast Guard? Well, in this video, I'll share my 5 reasons why you should consider, so stay tuned. Hey, welcome to Military Journeymen. My name is Julian Miyata, and on this channel, I share with you the best military tips and money-saving hacks. So subscribe so you can keep up to date. So one reason you might consider joining the Coast Guard is for the sense of community. Now, it's real easy to feel like you're maybe not seen, or that you can't really build up those friendships or connections when you're just one person out of maybe hundreds of thousands of people. In the other services like the Navy or the Army, you have upwards of like 300,000. In the Coast Guard, you only have 40,000 or about 40,000 active duty members. In comparison, the NYPD has around 40,000 as well. And in comparison to like a college, university, some of the top 10, they're upwards of like 60,000. So the Coast Guard is real small, and you really get to know who you're working with, and oftentimes you'll be working with the same people. It's a real tight-knit community, especially when you start getting more specialized like in your rating. So for me as an IT, there's only up somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 ITs in the Coast Guard. So there's not, I'll see the same people oftentimes, especially coming from my A school when I was in Petaluma. I actually have a bunch of people that I went to A school with that are now working with me. So you'll see that in the Coast Guard, it's real tight-knit, and it might be one reason why you might consider joining. Second reason why you might consider joining is the job responsibility. So the Coast Guard, as being as small as it is, it covers a large amount of area. We cover over 88,000 miles of coastline, and that's not including the Great Lakes or inland or overseas. So that just means there's a lot of job responsibility on you. There's about 21 rates in the Coast Guard, I believe. So every rate has a higher level of responsibility. In the Navy, for example, you might be an IT in the Navy, but you're going to be doing one specific job. Maybe that's working on printers, or maybe that's working on telephones. In the Coast Guard, an IT has to wear a lot of different hats and has a lot of different responsibilities. Same thing with like BMs. A boatswain's mate in the Coast Guard, they are responsible for, maybe they're the officer in charge of a unit, maybe they're driving the boats, maybe they're doing paperwork, but they have to do all these different responsibilities because there's just so few people in the Coast Guard that they entrust you to do a whole lot more. And that's really awesome for me, because I don't want to just do one job, because that might get boring after a while. So even me being in IT, right now I'm a network analyst, but I can choose maybe my next station. I can do more like a general supporting unit that deals with like fixing printers, fixing computers, working on boats, on cutters, things like that. So there's plenty of ways to diversify and get a different type of job, which keeps things more interesting. Third reason you should consider joining the Coast Guard is because you get to select where you end up, or where your duty station is. When you join the other services, you don't really have much of a say on where you'd like to go. You're not probably going to be ending up at Station Vacation in Lake Tahoe, or your whole career on the East Coast. It's far from probably the reality of what's going to happen. You probably end up on a cutter, or overseas in Japan, one of these places. In the Coast Guard, you kind of can choose where you want to go, and they set this up really nicely. So you can work with a detailer, and the detailer allows you to, gives you a list of all the jobs that are available, and you can pick what jobs you want based off of this list. Another thing that comes into play is your priority level. So if you just came from a cutter, automatically you have a higher priority than someone that was at a land unit. Now, just because you're on a land unit or just because you're on a cutter doesn't mean that you can get that position, but people rotate so much in the Coast Guard at positions, or even places nearby that position, that you can oftentimes jump into that job. A lot of times people usually get something within their top 5 picks on where they'd like to go. So that gives you a little bit more reassurance, like, yes, you're going to be ending up at places you'll most likely want to be at. Fourth reason you should consider joining is because you can take a lot of leave and you can go to college. So for me, one of the things that I really like is my vacation time, my time off of work. I've gone to Japan for like 3 weeks in one sitting. So I took 3 weeks of leave. I was there. I went to Japan another time for a couple weeks. Went to Colombia for a couple weeks. It's really easy to take that leave, especially because most of the jobs in the Coast Guard are land-based. When you're on a cutter, it is a little bit more challenging because you have to time it with the cutter schedule. But when you're at a land unit, it's very easy to take vacation time. You can just request it, and oftentimes, more than not, they'll just say, yeah, you can take that vacation. Also, being on land units, you can go to college really easily. So for me, I've been going to college now since I've been in, and if I wanted to, I could easily go to a campus. I know people that have gone and chosen going to a campus rather than taking online college. One of my friends was actually in Florida. He wants to become a doctor, so he's going to USF, which is our major biochemistry college. Really good for aspiring doctors, and he can go to the labs there. He can do the things like that. So you do have that option being in the Coast Guard. When you join the other services, you're probably going to be overseas. You might be on a boat a majority of your time. The connection speed might not be that good. It'll be a little bit more challenging for you to do it. It's definitely possible joining the other services, and thousands and thousands of people have done it. But in the Coast Guard, it is easy when you are at home or if you're next to a major university to just walk over and take those classes. Fifth reason you should consider joining, and this one's real big, is that you can spend a lot of time with your family and grow with your family. Being in the Coast Guard, you are going to be in the United States typically. If you're on a cutter, you might be underway for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, depending on the size of the cutter. But typically, you are going to be on land, so you get to go home typically every night. It's very conducive to a family lifestyle. I know that lots of people, when they are in the other services, they might have to leave their whole family. They'll fly overseas for years. Maybe your family members might not see you for a long time. Also, you might go on deployment, and that can make it really challenging if you are raising a kid or whatever the condition might be. If there's family medical issues, being in the Coast Guard, it's very good about raising a family. It's one of the services that I would say is probably the best with having that family work lifestyle that is really just kind of healthy and really easy to maintain. Question of the day: what's the one reason you want to join the Coast Guard? Leave it in the comments section down below. If you're considering joining the Coast Guard, check out the Bootcamp Essentials playlist right up here or this video right here. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and consider subscribing. Until next time, guys, peace out.